Howdy ho, Lions fans. Welcome to the Detroit Lions podcast, episode 532. This is the training camp preview featuring the one, the only independent journalist, Justin Rogers. He will be joining us very shortly. Good stuff come on. We're the official Detroit Lions podcast for Reddit. I am your dashing host, Chris, and with me is my good friend and co-host, Jeff the Riz Risen. Man, I forgot what you look like. Your hair's all different.
It's been a while. My hair is a little different. My hair. So you know how ladies can change their hair by the day, and it's like kind of cool for them. I've been trying that, and the ladies in my life, my wife and my daughter, who I've been living in a hotel with for the last week, don't like it. But it's too late to change today, and my hats aren't clean. So
the coif is the coif. It's not.
You'll deal with it as it is. It'll look different when I'm coming at you live or sort of live from training camp later this week.
When you're doing what? All right, we got a lot to talk about today. We got our warm-ups like we do as we start to gather around the fire for the conversation. We'll do our pup list update. We'll have Justin Rogers on. We're going to do an off-season retrospective. Think about it. This is that kind of time when folks start tuning back in. So a lot of folks left, kind of went away for the summer and did their thing. And it's like, oh yeah, what happened last season in my favorite show? Don't worry, we got you covered. We're going to do a little retrospective, catch you back up since the end of the season. And then we're going to do a prospective. That's looking forward for those of you. And we're going to take a look at training camp, some of the things to look at and know about and be ready for, to get you ready to rock and roll as training camp kicks off this week. Are you ready for that one, Riz?
I am ready for that.
Well, we got a great show lined up. Are you ready for that?
I am ready. Let's do it.
Yes. Let's kick this off and break it down.
All right.
Missed my cue. Sorry.
I got you. We got you covered.
It's been a long time for us collectively. But we're very happy to be with you all tonight and making it work live. This is great. We're excited to have Justin joining us. With his big new announcement, I'm so proud of this guy. I'm not even gonna hide the fact that I'm gonna just fawn over him, because what he's doing is the dream of a lot of people.
Yeah. And, Mr. Substack.
I like how he's doing it. I hope it works for him. Y'all need to subscribe to him. I'll say that before he even gets here. Y'all need to subscribe to what he's doing.
Already have.
Do it.
Yes. So we will have him on, and we're gonna have a lot of conversations. There's a lot to talk about, and I'm excited. I'm very, very excited by what we have, what he has going on, what's going on with the Lions, and what we're about to talk about. There's some really, really fun stuff coming in there, so we'll get that. Don't worry. Let's talk about what's going on. Let me get to the stuff right here. First, we're gonna do a quick announcement. The training camp party. James Willis, can I still get a ticket to the training camp party? It's going to be different. It's going to be different this year.
We are having.
I'm not going to go into
logistical time issues.
But after the lengthy time in Atlanta and all the travel and everything else that's been going on, I just don't have it to do to put the whole show together and everything. We'll do something informal. Make sure follow on Twitter. At DET Lions Podcast. We'll let you know, but we will do something that night still informal. We'll get together with everybody. No tickets. There'll be no show. It'll just be a good hangout session. There's no training camp the next day. There will have been training camp, I think, the day before. So it's a good time for everyone to kind of get together, hang out, have a couple brews, and just shoot the bull in a very kind of casual atmosphere rather than with the big party. And I hope you all appreciate it. Sorry, or forgiving of kind of putting the party on pause. We do have something that we're lining up for St. Jude to try to make up for it. We'll talk about that as we get closer. I think you guys are really, really going to enjoy that. But in the meantime, a little bit of change this year.
For those of you who have been to training camp parties past and hang out after the show, that's what Chris and I are trying to do that day. And hopefully the Uptown Grill will work with us. They've been great to us in the past. I don't see a reason why they wouldn't be. And it will be much more something like that, where we're all sitting around a giant table or a couple of tables and just, talking Lions, shooting the shit and having fun, hopefully enjoying some great food, because they do have great food there.
Absolutely they do.
Nothing against the Uptown Grill. It's logistical challenges have been in both of our lives, unfortunately, this summer, with a lot of off-field issues going on for both Chris and myself. And it's probably better if we didn't try to stress it out for a show, quite frankly, because we don't want to make it something that would be like, we paid for that.
Yeah, no, nothing less than the best. Yeah, nothing less than the best we can give. So there you go. It'll be that date. Same thing on the date, August 3rd. But stay tuned, and we'll talk about it on the show as we do shows as well as it comes together. But for sure on Twitter, make sure you're there. That's what we're going to be talking about it the most and let you know. So there you go. Sorry again for everyone that was really looking for the show, to do the live show with us, but we'll put something back together. Don't worry, I promise. All right. With that, let's get into our warm-ups. We have a good one. Neither love nor money, and you ain't got jack. And we'll start with the first one. Neither love nor money. Jordan Love. Well, no love for the Packers without no money.
Chris, he played 1 year.
Yeah,
1 year.
It was a golden year. It was a golden year. This is
good.
This is going to be something to see, Riz. This is good. He's demanding. So I hope, like the people that were worried about overpaying Goff, realize. I hope this just falls into like the that realm of ridiculousness, and there is no leverage in Green Bay. He's not practicing until he gets that contract. He says there is no leverage in Green Bay. He's going to get himself a whole pile of cash. I mean, they got nothing.
They're expecting to win this year. Like they feel as confident about the NFC North as we do. Just because I'm looking it up right now, his backup is Sean Clifford, it'll be Sean Clifford because he actually didn't do terrible last offseason. 5th round pick. You might remember him in 2023 from his days at Penn State. And they also drafted Michael Pratt from Tulane in the 7th round this year, who we met down in Mobile, and we liked him, but we didn't want to draft him. Great guy.
Yeah.
Very good human being. I'm not sure that he's an NFL quarterback, but so
except
good
in Green
for
Bay.
Jordan Love.
Potentially.
Good for Jordan Love for standing up and trying to strike while the iron's hot. While he does have some leverage, because they're not going into the season with Sean Clifford as their quarterback. Now, it sounds like, and I'm catching up on this today, and I did talk to our Packers Wire editor, Zach Cruz, a little bit. He doesn't think that it's something that's going to drag out, but it's upsetting the apple cart before they wanted those apples to be, harvested.
Guten Kust says that they're close. He sounds like his name just sounds like you're taking a dump in German. He says they're close. Look, they're bent over the barrel. They have to cough up the cash. I hope it's ridiculous. I hope it's absolutely ridiculous, and that I hope
it's more than Jared Goff.
Oh yeah. Oh, I expect it to be honest.
Not that he's deserving of it. Not in any way that he's deserving of being paid more than Jared Goff. I hope it's that high because it messes up. That's a really young football team. They're younger than the Lions are. They're going to have their Amon-Ra's and Paneys and Hutchinsons to pay, but they're all coming due at sort of the same time. And it's going to be I don't think that they structure contracts as well as we do with Mr. Disner in place and with Mr. Holmes in place. I don't want to say that the Packers are bad at contracts, but I don't think that they have the cap expertise that the Lions have shown and deftness that they've shown. And they get. Look, it's. I mean, their starting running back from last year is now in Minnesota, and not sure that they've replaced him. I don't think that they've really talked much about that in Green Bay. They don't like to talk about that.
Yeah, if they think they're going to win it, and this is the year, they've got an uphill climb ahead of them. And this is the first step in that. And look, they may play a game,
team, but we're better.
They may play a game where this might be, this could backfire on Love. It could. He could get his money, right? But this could wind up being kind of. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see how this plays out. But if like billionaires typically don't like to be played with or held hostage, and this is absolutely a hostage taking situation. So get the SWAT team, get that bag of cash, drop it off for ransom, and get this boy on the field. Let's get rocking and rolling up there, Green Bay. All right. The other one. So there we go. We've got neither love nor money. And then also we've got You Ain't Got Jack, which is kind of just a little shout out to Colton Pouncey, who's just a fantastic writer. He's brought so much. And you guys know
he's a talented
I'm not
dude.
super forthcoming with praise for for beat writers or writers and journalists in general, right? But Colton has earned a lot of respect. He does a really, really fantastic job. And he's got a story here that has quotes, I mean, from Aaron Glenn, Dan Campbell, Chris Spielman, Brad Holmes, the whole pack of them talking about what Jack Campbell means and how he's hitting the next level in his development. And thanks, Dick Harden, $10 to St. Jude. Appreciate that, my friend.
Thank you. That's nice. That's a nice start. I like that.
I like the name Dick Harden too. So yeah, Aaron Glenn.
Got it.
Oh
Jesus. I'm slow.
Aaron Glenn, first off, he's a man. He's a grown man. He's really taking control of his offseason the way he should take control of it. He's a true Mike backer. He's a guy that lives, breathes green dot mentality as a Mike backer. He's doing a heck of a job. And the way he's leading men as far as defense is impressive to see. That's pretty good. That's pretty good praise from a guy like Aaron Glenn, right? And for a young guy in particular. So love to hear that. And we get from Kelvin Shepard, who we both know and love. He's exceeded my expectations, which were already high, and they were. Calvin doesn't mess around. He's come back further along than where I expected. This player, you could tell, dove right back in, even toed, and took minimal time off. I'm sure his fiance hated it, but he got right back and engulfed in the ball, and it's paying off for him. And Riz, I want to ask you, from what you saw from practice, particularly around leadership on the field, right? His voice and what you saw from him. Did you notice anything different in the OTAs and mini camps?
He's definitely being more talkative pre-snap. Last year, he was, I'll be honest with you, until he took to the podium, I didn't know what his voice sounded like. You're hearing it more. He's doing it in conjunction with Alex Anzalone, who is a fantastic natural leader of his own. It's not an uncomfortable situation either. Like Anzalone gets it. Yeah. I think that's the best way you can say it about him. And he knows that Jack Campbell getting better helps him win, and that makes everybody look better.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it from Campbell. He's fun, man. He learned what he needed to learn from his rookie year, and stepping back and evaluating what happened as a rookie and seeing what he can do to get better. And I think I give the coaching staff a lot of credit for that, but you got to give it to him too for wanting it.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of players that we've seen them in Detroit. We've seen them at his position in Detroit, DeAndre Levy, who got to be pretty good and took it for granted.
Yeah.
And you don't see that with Jack Campbell.
No.
And that makes me happy. I'm very hopeful that he will have a big year playing a lot of Mike and Will. They're going to kind of interchange. Like, don't get married to the Mike and Will concepts. Like, they're going to move that around. We can probably talk about it with Justin too, about how malleable and fungible a lot of the positions designations will be on this defense specifically. Mm-hmm. But he's going to play a lot with Anzalone and probably with Barnes on the field some too. And I think you're going to see a better Jack Campbell in year two, because he knows much more of what he needs to do and how to do it.
Yeah. Chris Spielman on First Pick Podcast says, what you're drafting is not only a really good linebacker, who I think is going to have a really good year this year, you're drafting a guy that's going to be in the middle of your defense and eventually be the green dot and a productive player for the next 10 years. And by the way, he's a leader. He's a leader, and you can see that in him, and guys listen to him. So high compliments from a guy who knew what it took, and I think I would argue knows still what it takes. And a guy like Jack Campbell in the middle means a lot for this team, a lot for this defense. And really, if he steps up and starts really taking on that role like we think he can, and you start looking at what we have there in the secondary and what we've built this year, you can see a defense that's coming together that was genuinely the weak spot on this team last year, coming together in a way that could very much become as competitive as the offense at their respective position, my man.
I hope so.
I'm pretty excited by what's happening. We'll have to see. We'll watch. There's going to be a lot of videos coming in from Riz after training camp starting this week. His evaluations, his reviews, what did he see? We're going to keep an eye on that, and we're going to watch. But this is exciting to see not only Dan Campbell, but how the rest of this defense gels and comes together this year.
I'm ready. I'm ready to see these guys in pads. We haven't seen them in full pads yet, full contact yet. I'm looking forward to that. Probably won't happen on Wednesday, which is the first day that the media is allowed. But I expect Thursday or Friday. Most teams, we are one of the last teams going to have veterans and on the field, by the way. So I know just from Texans camp, I've been keeping up with those guys a little bit. It was to their fourth practice before anybody actually hit anybody else. So I wouldn't expect a great deal of report on like the blocking and violence of the game or anything like that on the first couple days, but that'll ramp up pretty quickly. Hopefully Friday, Saturday, in the next week when we'll be there.
One last quote. I feel like last year I was pushed some different ways to go play different positions. I feel like that's helped me a lot. Just understanding what the front seven's doing, but then this year, just understanding what the back end's doing. Where's my rotation? What's my help? Stuff like that. I mean, I have a lot to improve on, but I feel like, again, anytime you can have time on task and have reps, it's just going to help you. Smart kid, just smart, growing into his position, really kind of fitting well. And I think we'll see when he gets on the field what that looks like and how it translates into play on the field. But I'm excited. The front seven is an interesting group because I feel like right now it could go either way. You know what I mean? It could be an absolute powerhouse or it could be a bit of a miss. And I'm leaning towards powerhouse because there's a lot of really good players amongst those boys, those men. But there's also a couple gaps, right? So we'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll see. There's some questions that need to get answered pretty early in training camp with a couple of guys. DJ Reader, is he healthy? Can he play? Can he play in September? Is he ready to roll?
Yeah.
Because we're gonna talk about that now, right? Right? See, I found my mark.
I guess you did. All right, let's get into the Detroit Lions pup list. Pup. What's up, pup? All right, a couple guys on the physically unable to perform.
I'm so proud of myself, and Chris is like, yeah, screw you. You finally got one right.
Guy shows up, does a couple radio shows, and now he's a superstar. My God. Don, I know Inside the Den comes while we're live, but Justin's going to come at exactly the same time. That's pre-recorded. That's pre-produced. This is live. This is live. You're going to love it. You're going to love this. Watch this, then go back and watch Inside the Den. I promise you won't regret it. We got some good stuff coming with Justin. I promise. All right, let's get to the pup list. Let's start off DJ Reader. He's got a hindquarter issue.
He's coming off of a torn quad. By his own account, this torn quad is healing better than the last time he tore the same quad when he missed 11 months. He tore it in early November, I want to say. I think it was week 14. So that would be mid-November. That would be around Thanksgiving time. I didn't expect him to be ready for training camp. I'm hopeful that he's ready for the last preseason game. And that's kind of as early as I'm going to get. And hopefully we can talk to Dr. Jimmy Liao about this and get a little bit of a timeline on it. I unfortunately haven't been able to talk with him, but
I've been back and forth. He's got something coming on Wednesday, just so you know, this week.
Okay, good.
And we're going to have him on the show. I think next time. We were going to this time, then the Justin Rogers thing broke, and then we're trying to juggle so much. But he's going to go deep on Levi with us. He's got a lot of info on Levi, as well as the rest of the pup stuff. He'll go in, and I'm sure there'll be new nicks and scratches to talk about next week. But Dr. Liao will be on with us, and we'll have some really good info.
That's great.
Yeah,
because I am certainly not a medical expert, but torn quads are dicey. And I love DJ Reader as a player. I'm really hopeful that he's healthy because if not, we're going to be relying on Levi, who looks really good, has gained a lot of weight, a lot of good weight. He's over 300 pounds now. I saw a conversation in my mentions on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, the other day. Someone's like, well, Levi can play edge. Like, no, that's not what he does. He's not that guy anymore. Josh Paschal has gone the other direction. He's down in the 250s and will be playing almost exclusively standing up this year.
If
at
he
least
can
from
play
what we
edge.
saw in the spring. Yeah, that's kind of where he's at his best in that stand up attack the inside or outside shoulder of the tight end or the tackle. That's sort of where he's at. He's not the 273-pound guy who was lining up some inside. That's not who he is anymore. Having said that, now he'll show up this week, and I'll see him Wednesday. He'll be weighing 270, and I'll look like an idiot.
He'll be Aleem's cousin.
It'll be the last time. Won't be the last time. Yeah.
All right. Marcus Davenport, physically unable to perform. What's going on here, Riz? What did you do to him?
That one's a little disappointing because this is a guy who had a high ankle sprain last year. Missed 15 games with Minnesota. High ankle sprain is not an injury that should linger that long.
No.
And look, if you ask any Vikings fan or any Saints fan, they will laugh at you that you're depending on Marcus Davenport straight up. Like I won't sugarcoat that. They think that's a ridiculously stupid move on the Lions' part.
Yep.
I'm really hoping they're wrong, but it would be great if Davenport could get in there because I do worry some about that edge competition opposite Hutch.
Yeah.
There's bodies there. There are people that we know, we like, we are hopeful with, but who's proven?
Yeah.
And that's it. I would love for that to be a competition where the best man wins instead of the least egregious guy shows up and survives.
Yep.
Because it felt like that in the past, especially last year, when Charles Harris and Julian Okwara kind of got elevated, and Romeo was a fantastic dude, but the game had sort of passed the defensive scheme has sort of passed him by.
Yep.
And I don't want that to happen this year. I want, and maybe it's Matthew Betts. Maybe we'll get lucky and find somebody out of the Canadian Football League. Maybe James Houston will come back healthy and tear it up.
Yeah.
Could happen. Be great.
Yeah.
But,
he's got the time.
There's
now.
A lot of questions there.
He's had the time to get there. So
yes,
we'll see everything he's got. Don Burt, Broderick Martin. We'll talk about him. We'll hold on. Wait till Justin gets here. We'll bring that up when we talk about that. Also want to talk about Brian Branch. Had to have some knee cleanup, and they're not worried about him. Just had to have some cleanups on those knees. As Campbell said back in June, no big deal. Although I will say, don't tell Dan Campbell about knee cleanups.
Oh, no.
No, yeah.
Oh, no.
Cats are fucking around with my shit. Sorry. Sign fell down in the back.
Yes.
They were yanking on the lights.
Just noticed.
I just saw go tear around the corner after I heard it fall. And I saw it tear. There we go.
Anyway. Tried a technical glitch. Yeah. Branch was in street clothes throughout the spring, and all of us, including Justin Rogers, reported that, and it seems like everybody sort of missed that.
Yeah.
So maybe that's one of the reasons why we're going to be doing the offseason retrospective with Justin, because it feels like a lot of people also weren't aware that Jahmyr Gibbs didn't do anything this spring and was in a hoodie the entire time, even when it was the one day when it was like 92 degrees out.
Keep talking for a second. Keep talking for a second about Brian Branch.
I will.
Oops.
I will. Brian Branch, my concern with him going on the PUP list is not about his medical status. He'll be fine. I have zero worries about that.
You don't have to just yet.
I am more concerned that it feels like, and from what we've heard from coaches both on and off the record, is that they're trying, there you go, they're trying to move him to more of a safety role. He needs the reps, and if he's not practicing, he's not getting those reps. So I'm hopeful that he will be back by Thursday, Friday, Saturday, hopefully early on, so we can see exactly where he fits in this defense. It's nice that guys like Brandon Joseph and Ennis Rakestraw are going to get, and Amik Robertson are going to get reps in his stead in the slot and at safety. But if they're playing Branch more at safety, and again, every indication is that's what he's going to do in his second season, he's got to get back there. They got to, communication issues dogged this defense last year. They need all the reps they can get with those starters together. And down it goes. Down goes Frazier.
Down goes Frazier. All right, I'm messing with
it. So that's my take on Brian Branch. I'm hopeful that it's just a short-term thing, that they're being overly cautious, and that he's back by this weekend, so we can get him out there and see exactly what he's doing, because he is one of the questions. It's not a bad question. It's just an ignorant situation rather than a malfeasant situation. Yeah. We don't know what he's going to do. They added slot corners to help so he can do more safety things. They didn't add any safeties at all. That seems to be a big concern in our private Slack channel, the Detroit Lions podcast Slack. Best $5 you can spend. Even $1 gets you in and gets you access, which is great too.
Yep.
But that's been a constant theme this summer is, why aren't we signing Justin Simmons? Why isn't Q Diggs back here? Why do our safety depth chart end at 3? I think Brian Branch is kind of the answer to that question. But if he can't play or can't practice there, that sort of puts the kibosh on the excitement there. So
yeah. Now
get well soon, Brian. Come on, please. By the way, all these guys can be activated tomorrow. It could be something as simple as they needed a second opinion on an MRI, or like his blood pressure was too low, or something like ridiculous things. Like his urine was too pink. I don't know. Weird stuff happens at physicals.
Anyway,
it could just be like, yeah, exactly.
All right. Urine is too pink is more serious than your state where you're letting on there is, but I know you didn't claim to be a medical professional, so
I am not a medical professional.
Okay.
I had pink urine in some time, thankfully.
Oh man. Okay, so I want to talk about like the thing as to why Dan Campbell doesn't want to hear anything about any of those knee problems. He had knee replacement this year when he was missing and nobody knew why. During camp, he actually had it done on a Thursday, and he was trying to get his wife to take him to camp on Saturday, and she said, "I'll take you, but I'm going to very loudly be enforcing the no standing rule, and if you want me to do that in front of the team, I'll take you." And he decided to stay home. So good family vibe there. Nice, wonderful wife.
I'm looking forward to seeing. I haven't seen Coach since the rookie minicamp, so it'll be good to see him too.
Be cruising around. That guy in his recovery is incredible. Like nobody knows. Like he's like rolling around with new knees, and it's like, huh? And it's not his first set of new knees either, by the way.
No, it's not. It's number 3 on the right side, isn't it? I think.
I don't know. I just know it's rattling around.
I know he got beat over the hill.
He sounded like a bag of bolts when he was walking.
He had one done when he retired from the Lions with the injury, or with the Saints the following year. And I know he had one done then. I don't know which knee it was, but that's why he retired. So
yeah.
That was all right. 15 years ago. But
let's wrap up the pub talk. We got something else to talk about.
Let's do it. We got a big one.
Have you heard about this neat new place called Detroit Football Network?
I have. I heard about it today, Chris.
So have I. And it's got this guy named Justin Rogers running the show. How you doing, big man?
Oh, I'm very tired, guys.
I can imagine.
What do you mean? You had to work one day?
You might imagine. I didn't sleep great last night, knowing this was hanging over, and then I don't know. I mean, I'm a guy that talks on the phone a lot, but today's been ridiculous. I was telling my wife I have not left the house, and I am well over 20,000 steps just from pacing on phone calls.
I'm glad I do that too. You cannot stand still when you talk on the phone, right? I can't do that either.
No, I frequently, especially if the weather's nice, I will just walk out my front door and just start walking wherever the walk takes me.
And now we've had you plan. I just enjoy the moment. Enjoy the chair. Enjoy the thing. Let's talk about Detroit Football Network. What's this thing, Justin? Who suckered you into this? And tell me why you wish you were still in corporate media.
Yeah, that's quite the question there.
I'm gonna kick it off the right way.
I will tell you right now, I've loved every minute of my career. I loved every minute of being at MLive, and I loved every minute of being at the Detroit News. They were the right places for me at the right time in my career. Both of them took different levels of chances on me, maybe when I did not meet all the check boxes for what those organizations wanted. But as I've always kind of told people, if you let me get one foot in the door, I'm going to use the other one to kick that shit down. And for as good as the opportunity was for me, I'd like to think ultimately the decision was good for them. I gave them everything I had. I think that the work reflected the belief they had in me, and the numbers showed it. But, it started before this, but I got a call in December from a really good friend who's in a different industry, and he's very entrepreneurial in general, and he's done very well in his career. And my name came up in one of their meetings, their corporate meetings with their executives, and my name was pitched as a fit for an opening they had in their leadership team, and so he asked me if I was interested, and I think the reasonable thing for any adult to do is to listen. You always listen to offers, and that was December, and I said, look, I'm busy right now, as you might imagine. I don't know if you've seen this football team. They're kind of good. They're doing some things they haven't done in a while, and I'll get back to you in January at the earliest and February at the latest, like the way this thing is going. And so, they weren't looking to make their move until end of quarter one. And so I put that in my back pocket. And then within that, the independent thing, I don't know how it came up first, but it's certainly a thing that's been around. And there's three things that kind of hit with me during that stretch. One, I was in New Orleans. I was covering the Lions Saints game, and I was doing TV with Fox 2, just a hit down on the field. It's not something I do a whole lot, but they were set up right next to the New Orleans football people. And if you're familiar with that publication, Nick Underhill left Saints coverage, went to go, I believe they covered the Patriots for The Athletic, didn't like it, came back to New Orleans, his job was gone. He said, well, I'll do this on my own. And they had a whole pregame setup, and I'm like, what is going on over here? They've only been doing this for a couple of years. I went and looked at their site, and they've just grown so much. He's got multiple people. The ESPN guy jumped, and so that's a whole thing. And I'm like, okay. The Saints is a little bit different. There's not a lot of competition there, but clearly this is viable for them. Ty Dunn, is a friend in media, and he is doing a different format. He's doing the long form, deep dive stories, which I think is a tremendously difficult space to generate subscriptions, right? That's Sports Illustrated style journalism in an era of TikTok fans, right? You just don't have that kind of attention span. And, I called him in December. I said, hey, not saying I'm doing this, but tell me what the logistics of this thing look like for you, and what were the pitfalls, things you learned and would avoid if you did it again. And he just goes, stop. Before you we even talk anymore, he's just like, do it. And I'm like, okay, hold on. He's like, no, do it. And he's like, and we got deeper into an hour-long conversation. He's like, look, I would not take another job in media. He's a single income family. He's got a couple kids. He's like, I'm thriving. I'm doing well. I love what I do. I would not take another job in media. This is it. You will be successful. Do it. And I'm like, okay, put that in my back pocket. And then the last thing was a Washington Post article. It was about alternative sports media, and it really was focused on the Baltimore Banner, a new news organization started by the guy that couldn't buy the Baltimore Sun. And they were talking about how the Baltimore Banner had more reporters on the road covering the Orioles than the Sun. And that's not the interesting part. Deep in that article was a quote from an athletic guy who was laid off in their kind of trim of teams that they didn't think was particularly important to their revenue model post New York Times. And what does he do? As what many journalists have done that have lost their job via layoff and still want to be in, he decided to go independent. And it's just a simple quote in there. He's like, I've been doing this for a year, and I'm already making more than I was at The Athletic. And I just went, shit. All the signs are pointing to this as a realistic possibility. And we're still in December, January. And so I had this plan to approach my bosses. I wanted to wait till post January 1st because I wanted year-to-year data. And I came with a very thorough presentation. I was just like, look, I want you to know I'm not emotionally asking for a raise. I'm logically asking for a raise. Here is all the concrete data I feel with comps to my peers, with what I bring to the company, with the revenue I generate through subscriptions. And I go, this is what I feel like I'm worth. And I know the realisms of journalism. I know the budgets and the shoestring budgets and the the declining salaries and increased hours. I understand all that. I go, but this is what I'm worth. I have other options. And I hadn't decided what I was going to do at that point, but I was like, I need to know that you believe in the way my competitor, the way the competitors believe in the other Lions writers, because I think I do the best job in town. And, I don't say that arrogantly. I know that there are other good reporters in this town and they do individual things better than me. I have no, if you say this guy's a better newsbreaker, this guy's a better reporter, a better writer, selects better words in a better order, like, it's fine. I understand. I think the total package that I offer an employer is the best in town. I do. And that's confidence cultivated from doing this for a long time and doing it well. And so, it was a very healthy conversation. I do genuinely believe the News made every effort to retain me, but ultimately we couldn't come to an agreement on numbers. And I don't blame them. Like I've said this before to some other people today, like they have an obligation, leadership has an obligation to be fiscally conservative for an entire company and to keep as many people employed as possible to provide the best news and journalism for a region, for a people group as possible. And if the raise that I asked for, which it was significant, I'm not gonna walk around it. It was right and it was fair, but it was significant. If that was going to cause them to have to reconsider the employment of somebody else or take a buyout from somebody else, like ultimately, like that's not what I want. I don't want to cost somebody else their job. I don't want to put the company in an uncomfortable way. So I knew it was a realistic possibility they'd say no. And I told them, I'm okay if you say no. I'm okay. My number one preference was to stay at the Detroit News. Mm-hmm. I loved that job. I loved my bosses. I loved serving that readership. But ultimately, like, nobody cares about you the way you are able to care for yourself and your family, right? You're a piece of the pie for them, and they've got to plug you into a spreadsheet and make sure that fits first and foremost, and that's okay. But I decided I was going to do my own thing, and so
I want to talk about that really quick, just because I think you're onto something. It's your life. You're there. You lived it. But I feel like that is absolutely the place for you. That style, that type of thing, but on a model that was before that spreadsheet was built. You know what I mean? And you've heard me talk about, the writers I like, and that I sing your praises all the time. And it's, I paint this picture of Justin Rogers or the good journalists running around with a fedora with a card that says press and the hat band, right? But there was an era of news. Mike O'Hara was part of it, right? When there was it was a great career. You made, much better wages than they pay today, right? The wages are declining, and I understand it's a business model change, right? There's a world changing. It's not their fault that the world's changing around them, but it feels like you're a great fit for that model, but the model that was, and it doesn't work for a guy with your talents and skills and what they need to do to stay as that corporate entity these days. So it just kind of makes sense that the evolution, you would evolve apart from kind of that direction of where they have to go based on kind of what their business reality is.
Yeah, it's such a weird balance because like I felt underpaid, and that's just I don't even, it wasn't even feel like I knew I was, but also like there's this reality where I was making more in journalism than I ever thought I would make. I mean, I started at $26,000, guys. Like even like when I was running the department, at MLive, like I was a manager. I was making 40,000. And so like, I never got to six figures in my life, but like I was making more than I could have dreamed of when I left the path to be an engineer, which would have been far more financially successful. But I wanted to pursue something I wanted to do. And, I knew that I was choosing that path. And so like, I have no complaints. I did better than I ever expected. I was able to develop the way I wanted to develop. I was given an unlimited leash to be the reporter I wanted to be. I made this joke too. Like I think I was assigned 3 stories during my entire 7-year tenure at the Detroit News. Every single thing I wrote, thousands upon thousands of stories, were just what I wanted to write when I wanted to write it. And, that worked for me really, really well, because that's an environment I thrive in. But it's also the reason I believe I'm going to thrive in this next environment, right? Like I worked at MLive where I didn't have a copy editor, and everything was without, I was a trapeze artist without a safety net. Everything I put out there was how I read it. So if there was a stupid spelling error, stupid grammar error, I was getting hung out to dry in the comments on social media. So like you just learn to be super diligent. And then I haven't in 12 years on this beat been assigned more than 5 stories through 2 publications. Like I am very confident and comfortable in creating the story ideas that I want. I've, found different niches in like the types of styles of content I provide. I think I don't say mastered film reviews, but, made those a prevalent part of what I do. Salary cap, I've really learned the legal language of it and how the cap works. Mailbags are everywhere, but, I feel like I've cultivated my own voice. And so I have all these foundational elements. And like, if all it takes from now is to work hard, that's the easiest part. Like hard work is everything down, man. And so just to go back to the main point there is I registered that domain in December. Like I just said, you know what, I searched a few domains. I said, is it the greatest in the world? No, I'd love a .com, but guess what? Most .coms are eaten up, or you add 3 T's in there to get Detroit, and it's like, okay, like this. I was like, DetroitFootball.net's safe. It's safe. I called it the Detroit Football Network. I also own DetroitFootballNetwork.com. It redirects. I also own KyleMeinke.com. That redirects.
Yes. Still own that. That's great. That's fucking great.
I've owned that now for 7 years?
Yeah.
What a stupid joke. I'm never giving it up. And so
I'll set up a foundation just so you can continue to own that if anything happens perpetuity.
Yeah. I think it's like $12 a year, and it's like the best email I get every year. It's like, hey, this is redoing. I'm like, you're damn right it is. Make sure all my credit card data is updated rightly. So, and I just sat on it. I didn't do anything because I had that meeting, and I gave them an earnest chance I wanted to stay. Yeah. Like I let it run. And then, at some point on the weekends, I started coming up with a list, and I started calling people in my inner circle that are not just journalists, but I got a good friend that's really high up in PR for a Fortune 500 company. I've got a good friend who is runs content for one of the top political publications in their state, and is driven to generate revenue as a nonprofit through newsletters and subscriptions. Like I had people that was able to fill the gaps of maybe what I wasn't considering. And so I just had a Google Doc, and I just had a checklist. Here's the things that if I do this, this is what I need to do. And, I got basically the answer to, am I staying or am I going? I think it was the last day of Access, the day that was supposed to be the Beat Writer Combine, whatever that was. And I tendered my resignation that morning before going to the facility. I said, my last day is this, and I'm going to give you everything I have for these last 5 weeks, and then I'm going to go do something else. And I didn't tell them what I was going to do. Like, they didn't need to know. Probably, I don't know, it might have been problematic if they knew, but I did it on my own time, and it didn't take long.
I want to ask you,
I think this whole thing came together in a week.
let's talk about that then. I mean, the past is the past. Today is today, and the future's ahead, right? And the future for you is DetroitFootball.net. And so you had an opening article, and then you dropped another one today. The Lions signed somebody. Look at you. You're still putting yourself on deadlines.
But did you notice? I mean, did you read it, Chris?
I did.
Did you read the transaction?
Yeah. No,
yeah, I mean, it made it fun.
I read the article, and
By the way,
and the
Johnny
thing about
Mac, what are you doing with the D in the name? Come on, man. Come on, Johnny.
Yeah, I know. I didn't do it. He did. But the thing that I read in that just jumped out is you sitting on your in-laws' stairs writing a story while the kids are opening gifts, right? And I mean, there's so many working people, not just in what you do, that can't put aside the work in those crucial times. And there's an insight that you have, and this, I think it carries over. We often overlook, in our personal lives because we put that work forward. But that insight that you have to be able to see that and rethink and take a different step, it shows in the work that you do. Right. And it's strong enough that you're able to kind of look into the way you're acting in your personal life and say, wait a minute, there's something different. There's a better way to do this. And I'm hungry for something different. This isn't kind of scratching that itch anymore. And so let's really quick. I want to talk about the model because it's not corporate media. You are the corporation.
Nothing we're going to talk about is going to be really quick. You come on. You listen to me. I just keep talking.
And so do I. And we haven't even opened up Riz yet. You're the corporate media now. You're the CEO, right? So let's talk about the business model here. How are you going to make money on this thing, man? You got to feed the kids, you got to feed the family, you got to pay the mortgage. How do you make money on this?
So, in part of this 7 months to really think about this and the conversations that I had, part of that is you start budgeting out what it looks like. What do I need to hit living wages, and then what do I need to hit to match what I'm walking away from? And then what does it look like after that? I don't think that far ahead. I'm not a pie in the sky thinker. I really like keeping my feet grounded where I'm at.
Yeah.
But I did need a year one goal to just kind of get myself in the mindset of what I needed it to look like. And I will say this, as I talk to other people that have done this, that had to do it a little bit more urgently and didn't maybe necessarily have the time to plan or mentally be prepared, learning the subscriber numbers they had, in confidence, but whatever, I gained confidence that this was realistic. And so I'll just be frank with you. What I need to break even with what I walked away with, but I'm going to accrue about $20,000 of expenses that the Detroit News would have covered previously. That's plane rides, hotels, rental cars, cell phone, half the cell phone bill that I have to pay for now, whatever. It's rough estimate, 20,000. So not only take my salary down to zero, I'm taking my salary to negative 20,000. It's really, really easy one to sell
when they play in Tampa, I got a spot for you. Don't worry.
See, there you go. Just stay on your couch. And so what I needed to break even subscription wise, and that's if we're, not understanding this, it is a subscription model. I am going to be an $8 a month entity, $80 a year, but I needed roughly 1,500 people. And I sat there and I looked at them and I go, it's a lot. It's a lot of people. You've got to convince a lot of people to get on board, but also it's not a lot of people for what the topic is, for what my audience is. I've had, I don't know how many followers I have on Twitter, 40,000, something in that ballpark. And I understand 20,000 of those are Russian porn bots. That's fine, but that's 20,000 still.
Hey, you curate those however you can. I get it.
Yeah. But I know how big this fan base is. For years, I've had people emailing me and texting me and DMing me you're the only reason I subscribe to the Detroit News. That means a ton. I know exactly how many people subscribe to the Detroit News on my headlines, and I'm pretty sure it's proprietary data, so I will not share that. But it's in the thousands. and reporters don't see $1 of that.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing attached to goals. There's no salary increases. There's no bonuses. There's no set of steak knives. Like there's nothing. And so I'm a good employee. Like I am. Like I want to make my team the best team possible. I don't want to just make me the best possible. And so I really, really dove deep into how to be a better subscriber generator for the last 3 years. How do I do the content that I've already been doing, but make it, if it's going to go behind a paywall, how do I make people want it? And you learn how to write headlines better without being disingenuous. You learn how to pick topics better, and you put more effort into the long form pieces, the Dan Miller pieces, the Chris Spielman pieces, the Ben Johnson pieces that, now you have a legitimate case to make with your boss. Like, hey, this is important. Find somebody else to cover that stupid transaction while I'm working on this. Don't pull me away from this thing that can generate revenue for the company. That is still always my bottom line was still doing good journalism. Because that's always priority one. If you do good journalism and you do consistent work, you're constantly providing your readers with stuff, they're going to pay. Right? That was my theory of the Detroit News, and it turned out to be true. And so knowing what I was able to generate from the Detroit News, knowing what these other models were doing, I said, I can get to 1,500. It might take me, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years. I don't know. But I set I thought what a reasonable goal for myself that in 1 year from today, July 22nd, 2025, I want to be at 1,000. And what does that put me at? Probably like 60% of the pay that I had when I resigned, when you take out all those expenses and whatnot. But it would put me in a spot in my life where I'm like, I'm going in the right direction. I will get to where I want to go. And I have the freedom to not answer. I'm doing the American dream, right? I'm my own boss.
You're the CEO. You're the
doing
corporation.
And so today when I launched, I just wanted to get to 100 by the end of the week. I just wanted to get to 100 by the end of the week. Like I said, I just thought, okay, my goal is 1,000 in a year, and I get to 100 at the end of the week, where you're going to get your little surge to begin with anyway. Like, I'll feel so good about where I'm at. I had 167 minutes.
Damn.
And like, look,
where
the pace didn't.
Where are you at now? It's just a point in time.
I crossed over 300 today.
All right.
That's
awesome.
awesome.
And here's 301.
And I'll tell you right now, that is beyond humbling. It's like the third or fourth time I've been just knocked on my ass with praise or kind words in a obviously this is different level because it's an action. You're going beyond and you're reaching into your wallet to commit. But like, when it came out that I was resigning, it was just absolute wave. When I posted this week that this is my last byline, it was an absolute wave, and it makes you really reflective. And so I've had this counter up on my computer all day, and it's just, and I don't know why, because my phone has buzzed all 300 times. It's buzzing on my ass right now.
That's me.
Is it really?
Yeah, I just added one more for you.
It's
DetroitFootball.net. Subscribe now. Get now. You better not make me mad. I spent this $80, Justin. I'm expecting quality here.
Oh no, it's all political coverage from now.
Oh God!
As I just tweeted my last thing, my Twitter is only political coverage and Dan Orlovsky food takes.
Damn it! I hit the button too soon.
That's like one trip to the burrito buggy or whatever. Like,
dude, can you get a combo meal at most fast food restaurants for $8 now? Like, that was the comp I had. Like,
it kind of is.
It's funny. The phone is still buzzing. It's uncomfortable.
I'm sure.
I've always had this thing. Like, I like physical comedy. Like I always have. I think the Lions fans will remember the abacus at the Jim Caldwell press conference. Like, that's totally up my alley. And I've always had this thing, like the cost to joke ratio. Mm-hmm. am I willing to do something that I think is funny if it costs me money? How much will I be willing to pay? Like, if you don't think I'll pay $10 to buy something stupid because it'll lead to somebody laughing, absolutely incorrect. Like, it's the way I've always been. And so in my head, it's like, that's kind of what this is. It's like, is it worth it for what you're going to get? And if you like what I've done, all it is going to be that, and with an added gear of motivation, not spiteful motivation, but my last company didn't want me anymore. Like, and that's the wrong wording. They certainly wanted me.
They couldn't afford you.
They didn't. They couldn't afford me. Yeah, that's probably true. It's my fault. But
I don't think it's a fault, though.
You're too good for him. You moved on.
See, I would only look at it like that. I look at it as he's grown to a point where he's beyond their capability to employ him. That's it. It's not that he's too good. He is, but it's not too good. The quality of what he does is above what they can afford, and it's above what most.
I'm getting uncomfortable, guys.
That's above what most places are willing to play. That's why guys like you and the folks you were talking about, Taylor Dunn, what was his name?
Tyler Dunn.
Tyler Dunn. Yeah. Why you have to go and crank it on your own? And I mean, we've seen it. There's
you know what the actual comp is here, Chris? It's Jared Goff manufacturing frustration with the local media that doesn't actually exist because he needs something to put a chip on his shoulder. There's no, I'm just manufacturing. I'm manufacturing motivation. I'm manufacturing a chip that I don't need because it's what I need to help me push harder.
No, you don't. You're just good. Well, you don't need that. I don't think you do. I mean, you motivate yourself the way you need to, but I don't think that's really what it is. I think you're actually absolutely passionate about what you do, which is why you weren't an engineer, which is why you didn't chase down those other things. And it's fun to talk about chips and that kind of thing. But I just think you're really good, and now you found a way to do it in a way that you're a little less constrained.
Man, I don't know why. I just had a flashback. I went to Kettering University my first year, and I don't know if you know what that is. Jeff, you probably know.
I do.
It is a great engineering program. It used to be General Motors Institute.
Yep.
Super. I felt super good to get in there. I had a good scholarship. It's a 5-year program where you work half the year and go to school half the year. Mm-hmm. And you just take some stupid course load, like 22 credit hours with Calc 3. It was a nightmare, but like, I had a job. I had an engineering job. And it was like a hybrid of Office Space and Dilbert. Like it was all like I hate to say it now but like I completely understood Dilbert. It made perfect sense. I understood why the guy wrote it because it felt like that was the life I was living. And now I'm doing this.
Yeah. Detroit football.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question that's not necessarily about you, but about the Lions.
No, I don't.
They had to be. Really? They had to be supportive of this, correct?
They did, and so again, that just goes into kind of like the checklist, right? Before anything, right? Like I called up Eamon. I mean, I'll just throw his name out there because that's the head of the media relations department. I think it was still December, to be honest. I think it was before I talked to my boss at Detroit News, and I just said, hey, hypothetical, not anywhere near making a decision. If I did this, could I still be credentialed? Have I built up enough equity with the way I do my job that you would credential me as a private entity? And it was a relatively short conversation. He's like, look, I definitely would have to check with people, but on a personal level, my answer is likely yes. I mean, we might have to have some conversations about what it looks like, but and I was like, well, again, we're infants. I'm probably going to look like what I already do, right? Like maybe a little different, but not. It's not like I'm going to suddenly turn into Stephen A. Smith, just dropping hot takes left and right. And it's just, I do my job the way I do my job. And so there were a couple conversations that week with Eamon and some people further up the ladder. And it became clear really quickly that I had that vote of confidence. And so,
Good.
once you check that, I couldn't do it without it.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, but it's just like, that's so much more difficult to not be there, to not be in the locker room.
Yeah.
You're doing so much more with agents. Like, nothing against agents, but I don't
Welcome to my life, Justin.
like. I have some agents I really like, but like in general, I hate the national media agent game. I hate it. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, I never have done it, and I never will do it. Where I'm gonna give favorable coverage for information. It's never gonna happen.
Good.
Fair enough.
Stay that way. Please.
Speaking about coverage, 2 things. First, DetroitFootball.net. Go subscribe. $80 for a year. You can do $8 a month if you, like Jeff Merrill, would like to give more money to Justin than just getting the 2 free months. But you get 2 free months if you do the yearly subscription, like I just did.
Jeff.
Right there.
He's a good dude.
Really sweet.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
There you go. All right, let's talk a little bit about Lions, Justin. We shilled your bin long enough. Let's talk football.
Let's see if you know what you're talking about.
All right, let's get into it. Let's talk about a little bit of a retrospective from the offseason. I want to kind of take a look back. This is a time when folks, it was season 3 of Breaking Bad. It ended a couple of months ago. Now season 4 is about to kick off. We got to do that look back. What happened last season, right? And it's really, I want to kind of think about it. There's probably 2 pieces of this, but after the end of the season, after that San Francisco game, after the chants kind of faded away, and we moved on to the time where we got ready for a draft. It went longer than I thought. We got to the time where we started talking about getting ready for the draft. We were down in Mobile, which we'd love to have you come join us next year, Justin. It's a good time.
I might be done with Mobile for life. I put a decade of time in. I don't know.
We'll work.
DVD. Sorry, Jim Nagy. Love you.
So we go Mobile, we go the combine, and then we get to the draft. Let's do just a little bit of a recap on the Lions draft. I know you're not a big.
We're gonna skip free agency. We're just going right to the draft.
Yeah, let's just slide right into it. I mean, unless you have something you want to talk about prior to the draft, any big breaking things that were exciting. I think for you or for.
I'm sorry, but I feel like the Carlton Davis and DJ Reader moves were pretty damn big.
There you go. Okay.
I'm a big Carlton Davis fan. Like I think he is a very good player. I think it's a pretty massive upgrade. I think it's a stylistic fit. I don't know if it's going to be more long term than this year, but man, I really like that addition to improve a weakness right away. And then I don't know. I'm sure you guys remember one of my favorite things to write every year is the roadmap to the offseason. And really all it is just kind of bringing fans a reminder of all the different things that are going to happen during the offseason, starting with, exclusive right tenders and franchise tags and all that stuff, all the way through free agency and the draft. And I don't put my GM hat on totally with that, but I'll often say, like, hey, here's some areas of weakness. Here are some of the free agents that, would be great fits if it works. And like the photo that my bosses, because that's one thing you didn't do at Detroit News, is you didn't pick the photo to go with the article, but the photo they selected because of the way I wrote the story was DJ Reader. And I said, look, injured, obviously serious. I don't know the extent. I'm not covering the Bengals. I'm not, talking to his agents. Not my beat right now. I don't worry about guys that aren't on the Lions until they're on the Lions, generally speaking. But the player when healthy is so good. Like, he's so good, and he's going to help Alim. He's going to keep that run defense even better. Like, you're putting in DJ Reader for Benito Jones. And I think Benito Jones got way too much criticism for what he was here. I thought he did a job adequately. He was a replacement level player, which is a great value for what he was paid and what he provided. That's okay. But you taking a replacement level player and now replacing him with a fringe Pro Bowl caliber player that the only reason he's not a Pro Bowler is he doesn't produce more pass rush, and that's not what he does. But he does at some level, right? Like, he does produce pass rush more than you'd think, and that's going to help out Aiden. It's going to help out whoever ends up rushing the passer from the other side. So, like, those 2 moves made the defense, in my opinion, a lot better before you even got to the draft. I thought Brad Holmes had his – I know we could talk about winning free agency, right? Like it means jack squat. But I thought he had his best free agency far and away, and I guess we'll find out for sure in hindsight when we see what these guys bring to the field.
Yeah. So then we get to the draft. We get this. This is where things, Lions fans in the draft were not used. I mean, how long has it been since we drafted our first pick that late in the draft?
I don't know if it's ever.
Laken Tomlinson.
I think he was further than Laken, right? Either way, even if it was Laken, they would have traded down.
Laken was 28. We traded up to 24. So technically, I think Riley Reef was 22.
Okay.
It's been a while.
Right.
Put it that way.
So Lions fans are uncomfortable. The single digit picks are going away. Then we start to get into the teens. People are freaking out. And then Brad Holmes steps out. I think you're the one that got this quote, actually, Justin. He steps out of the Lions draft room, talks to the media, comes up with his famous quote.
You better back the fuck up out my face, goddammit. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. Don't play with me.
And picked Terrion Arnold. That was an amazing pick. It was a great quote too, Justin. Thanks for grabbing that one from him. That was.
You're welcome.
Sorry, Justin. Great. He's 12 sometimes.
That's my favorite. Whatever. So we get Terrion Arnold. Worth the wait, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like you're getting cornerback one for many people in this draft, and it's not consensus. Obviously, if it was a consensus, guys probably going top 10 pick. That this wasn't there wasn't the definitive lock at cornerback, but there are plenty of people that thought this guy was CB1, and I continue to think, and I've said this before, like there's a tremendous amount of parallels to Darius Slay. I think Arnold's a little bit more polished, but coming from an SEC school against SEC competition, similar athletic profile, guys that maybe dipped a little bit further in the draft than what people thought they were. But, I think there'd probably be people that argue that Slay was very close to the best cornerback, if not the best cornerback. That's a damn good pick. And, the more I've been around Arnold, which admittedly is not a ton, I've talked to him a couple times and seen him practice a few times, but like he's an impressive individual. Like he's just a good dude. And I know the janitor story was out there, and sometimes you see those stories and you have a healthy skepticism, right? Like you don't not believe it, but like you want to wait to judge somebody yourself instead of, what potentially could be a manufactured story. And what I can tell you is, like that's who that guy is. And I think Jeremy Reisman might have told this story in some other media sphere podcast or whatever, but I was standing there, I was waiting to grab Terrion walking off the field. He was doing like a TV interview, and I just needed like 1 minute with him. I wanted to talk to him about the little golf bonding I had seen, going on. Like he was clearly like having, some bonding moments with golf, and I just thought it was kind of cool. And he was walking toward me, and then he just turned and did a beeline toward Jeremy. And he's like, "Hey man, I don't normally watch podcasts or whatever." He goes, "But my grandpa or my uncle sent me your podcast talking about me. And I just like, you know what you're seeing. You talked about that just right. Like, and I just want you to know, like, that's really cool. And I'm really appreciative." And he got to me and I'm like, "Dude, like, you don't need to hear this, but like, just seeing you interact with a human being like that, you don't have to, sets a bar about what you think about somebody. Like my respect in this moment just went up because of the way you went to a guy that, probably a lot of players, reporter, like just, it's just not on my level. I don't want to deal with him beyond what I have to. Like he went out of his way to make him feel important about the work he did. And I was like, that is character defining. But on top of that, I mean, what people really care about is what he's going to be on the field. And I said, Darius Slay parallels. That's where it was in my head. Darius Slay sucked as a rookie. Sucked.
Yes,
and got benched.
Look,
by Jim Schwartz of all people.
There's something to be said about your confidence being rattled as a rookie. Larry Warford got his lunch handed to him daily by Ndamukong Suh and Nick Fairley, and it rattled Larry Warford. Ultimately, it made him a very good player. But like he got to a point where he was doubting his ability to play football. And the good ones have the mental resolve to come back from that. Darius Slay had to go against Calvin Johnson in practice. Like, God, yeah, like come on. Like that every day is a nightmare. And he got his ass kicked, as you'd think. But I think that combined with the fact that Darius was very reliant on his hands, because you can do that in college football. You can be more aggressive downfield. They're not as quick to throw the flag. Those two things really, really hurt him as a rookie. And he just, he sucked. He got benched. Then he went out and had his Rod Woodson summer and came back, and you saw the trajectory of what a guy that very well could end up in the Hall of Fame. I mean, just a phenomenally great player. And I just think that I was like, okay, Terrion Arnold might have some of those same struggles. He might get cooked by Amon-Ra St. Brown on the daily, and he also had some penalty issues because of physical play downfield. All the speed in the world, but like ultimately you got to learn to play with your feet and your eyes and not your hands at the professional level. And I thought it's probably going to happen. That's okay. Like that's what happens with rookie cornerbacks. But like I will tell you through what we've seen so far, and it's such a small sample size, there's going to be bumps in the roads, but Terrion Arnold is notably ahead of where Darius Slay was at this point of his rookie season. And so, yeah, I think he's going to be really good. I know draft night I was kind of casually polling reporters and the beat, like saying Terrion Arnold starts his first game for the Lions in week X. And several said week 1. I was like, I don't know, guys. Like, it's week 1. It's week 1. Yeah. I'm telling you, like, as much as I'd love to see Amik get that shot because he's such a spark plug in like the most joyous way. I mean, like Quandre Diggs, angry little man syndrome. Like I don't even say that in a negative way. Like he's awesome. It's
Amik would appreciate that. He would not take offense to the angry short guy syndrome. Like that's he would wear that as a badge. He's a great guy. We didn't talk about him when we were talking about free agency. What's been your impression of Amik so far? Because we've seen him. I'll preface this by saying I watched him in the slot in Las Vegas, and he was terrible there. And we've seen him.
I've only seen the PFF stuff. Yeah,
primarily in the slot this spring. Well, not primarily, but a lot. Your early impression on what you've seen from that?
I would say it's just fine. Like it was okay. It wasn't great. That I would say the one thing that I came away with was you can see the anticipatory skills. Like he's really good at timing the slants, the breaks, the comebacks. Like when he's got a beat on it and he's coming forward, like that gap is closed in a hurry and he's either hitting you or dislodging the ball with his hands. And so to me, that skill set plays in the slot. I don't know why he struggled in the slot in Vegas. I don't know if it was scheme. I don't know if they asked him to do so much. I don't know if they asked him to play off when he's better with his hands in the face, but I don't know. Like I like a lot about that kid, and I would love to see him have success. And Eric Glenn, like, look, it doesn't matter if you've got your starters. If you're good, he'll find a way to rotate you in some packages. He'll come in and play some slot, and they'll throw Branch back in safety just because that's clearly where that seems like that's trending long term. Nobody will say it out loud, but that seems to be the tea leaves.
We were talking about that when you got here. Yep. So can I ask you about that? What's your thoughts on Brian Branch? First off, being on the PUP, do you expect that to be a long time? And also then how much does that impact the ability to move him to safety in a more full-time role?
Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty good question. I don't know the extent of the injury. We all thought Emmanuel Mosley was going to start training camp last year and had a setback. Look, Branch had his little knee cleanup. Nobody seemed to be overly concerned that I talked to about it publicly or off the record. And so I'm not overly concerned. I was actually probably a little surprised he started on PUP, but then again, like everybody heals a little bit differently and there's always little setbacks. So, Maybe he comes off in 2 days. Who knows? Maybe the conditioning test was the issue.
But
I don't know.
Also, though, I mean, the Lions seem to be ultra conservative with injuries. And they seem to give these guys more time than most teams will to get back. I think under the belief that you have less chance of doing further damage or just pushing them back too early.
I think it's smart though, like, right?
Yeah,
like,
no, totally.
That's you build depth, and you build depth, and like, look, I know like Kindle Vildor became like enemy number one here for the blunder in the playoffs, which was just so unfortunate. But like, in terms of like a quality backup, that's the kind of guys you love to have, that like you could throw them out there and they're going to compete like hell, and more often than not embarrass themselves. I realize he fell down covering CeeDee Lamb in a goofy situation, but like the Lions have backups like that at so many positions, and so you have guys you can trust, which lets you get your guys right. That's just
why
good business.
Do you need Brian Branch to play the first week of training camp and risk tweaking it rather than heal, and not let your backup get some reps and some practice time in to get better in case you do need him? Like, I mean, it's nothing different makes sense, but most teams won't do that. They will just shove the guy back in and grind on him.
And I think we saw with Branch last year, like, right, he was trying to play through something after injuring that ankle, and he wasn't the dynamic player he was through the middle of the season that he was at the beginning of the season, and started kind of showing signs of again at the end of the season. So you already know 100% he's a devastatingly impactful player. So get him right.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a good quote right there. Lead a headline with that.
Let's go back. We're still doing the retrospective. Let's talk about anything else that jumps out at you about the draft. You want to do more macro, or you want to talk about any players individually? Just kind of summarize the Lions draft and the big hot topics from it.
Oh, I thought you were just talking about Atlanta drafting a quarterback at 8.
That was fantastic.
I didn't know where you were going with that.
The Lions draft. The Falcons.
Yeah, you're covering it's Detroit football net. It's not.
Well,
let me ask you.
He's got to get a better editor. He's all over the place here.
I will ask you a direct question.
Oh God!
What was your reaction to Giovanni Manu?
Can I drink on this?
Yeah, I'll join you.
I have this beer cabinet, so I'm going to drink a beer.
I will too.
Please do.
I built this thing. Yeah.
Good. I emptied mine. I'm on water now. But what was your reaction to the Giovanni Manu?
Yeah, we're going to talk about Manu in a second. You see this wall behind me? I built that shit. Yeah, that's YouTube right there. Yes, YouTube taught me how to work with power tools. Giovanni Manu is, and it was my immediate reaction was, oh, they drafted the offensive Broderick Martin. Like, in
that's a great way to look at it.
That's what it is. Like, you just drafted a guy with unbelievable, almost unmatched physical gifts, both in terms of physical dimensions and athleticism at that size. And you said, what's the odds that a fourth-round pick turns out anyway? Which is, I know Broderick Martin's a third-round pick, and people equate all the little piddly assets they gave up to go get him, but he's a fourth-round pick essentially with where he went off the board. So what is the odds a fourth-round pick turns into an impactful starter, generally speaking, in the NFL? Pretty low. But, every so often you buy a scratch-off ticket and you win $1,000. And that's what these guys are, right? Like you're buying, it's, the odds are probably better than a scratch-off ticket, but they're so physically gifted. And so you're betting on the gifts, you're betting on your coaches. I would poll Lions fans and bet Hank Fraley's approval rating comes in pretty damn high. So you're betting on your position coach to develop the kid, and you're banking on the mental acuity and the want to that you gleaned from, the interviews, right? And so you were out there, you saw Manu, like he's freakishly large. And
what was our reaction in the media when we saw him for the first time? We're all looking at his ass and his legs, and we're like, holy crap, look at this dude. Like,
the photo from his pro day, it reminded me of like when I used to use this comparison. Ndamukong Suh and Nick Fairley were listed the same weight. And maybe they were, or maybe that was just them being kind to Fairley and not including the extra 20 pounds. But it didn't matter. Suh was sleek, right?
Yeah.
A super muscular, defined 300-pound brick wall.
Mm-hmm.
And Fairley was not, right? Like Fairley was a little doughy. Like Manu is a brick wall with limbs to tie his shoes standing up. Like he's body beautiful, and body beautiful only gets you so far. And the level of competition tells you that it's going to take a while, but there are plenty of stories in the history of the NFL of guys coming from out of nowhere, coming from levels of competition that just needed the time to develop to become great. And so I have no idea what this kid's future is. Nobody does.
But I think there's the big difference, and I think I don't disagree at all about the scratch-off ticket analogy, but this is different Brad Holmes with a scratch-off ticket than it was Martin Mayhew. Martin Mayhew was counting on that thing to get baby formula. He had to hit that scratch-off ticket.
Chris Greenwood had to play.
Brad Holmes?
Yeah, but like
Brad Holmes
Sammy Lee Hill was an example too. If you may want to be fair to Martin Mayhew, like Sammy Lee Hill came from where?
Good player.
Yeah. Yep.
And he was a good player. Like, was he a great player? No, but you could throw him in as he was
fine. He was a great number 3 tackle.
But
brain is melting. But yeah, like
I would trust a scratch off. I would trust when you have a team like Holmes does versus the team that Mayhew did. I trust Holmes' scratch off. I buy the scratch off ticket for Holmes before I do Mayhew, just because you got a team that made the NFC Championship game, right? No team is built perfectly, especially in a salary cap year. Sometimes you take a flyer. I'm okay with that. I don't think it's irresponsible. But I think Mayhew, he hit on a couple, but Mayhew missed. He whiffed on a lot. He took some wild swings with some guys that had some history, whether it be injury or otherwise, that didn't pan out, right? And he did it from a position of weakness. So it's kind of hard to justify doing a scratch off than playing a little bit more of a certain game.
No doubt. And look, like that is, I've said that phrase a lot. And look, apparently is my new catchphrase.
That should be the title of your next
straight
story.
Up borrowed from Kowalski, I'm pretty sure.
Use it for instead of mailbag. Call it and
There's
look.
nothing wrong with borrowing from Killer.
And look,
yeah, no doubt.
Here's your answer.
We know this. Like the best sustainable teams in the NFL do it through the draft. It's just it's how it works. Like if you draft well and you consistently draft well, that is how you stay on top in the NFL. That's how you become the Steelers or the Packers or these Ravens, these organizations that just stay on top for year and year after year after year. And good GMs are the ones that have the higher hit rates. They don't. Nobody hits 100%, and nobody even hits really 75%. But like, if you're hitting 75% of your day 1 and 2 picks, and you're hitting on 40% of your day 3 picks, like
you're beating the league still.
You're probably a damn good GM. And Brad Holmes is. I mean, we joke about it all the time, but like every single one of his draft picks is still on the roster. It's stupid. Like it's stupid, and I can't say it's good or bad. I think Brad gives his draft picks a longer leash than most GMs would.
I agree.
And I think it probably there's no right or wrong answer here because sometimes that pays off. You are patient and the guy develops and becomes the guy that you hoped he would be. Derek Barnes, for example, right? Like he became a pretty good player for them last year. And Jamar Jefferson has never done anything, and that's fine. Like maybe he's doing something in the practice squad that they really love, but like,
I've got a player I want to talk about in that realm. Sorry, Justin, but one that we have yet to see. That I think this year will tell the tale. But Jameson Williams, that's a guy that they made that bet with, and then there wasn't injury related things that happened, and he grew, they worked it out. Whatever, and this is going to be the year. And this is a guy that I think would have probably crashed out on any other team, including the Lions prior. But the Lions worked with this guy in a way that most teams won't, rather than just force him on the field, flame out, end of the story. It's a bust. We move on. And that's where I think you'll see, a situation like that. It pays. I think there's maybe I'm not here to knock on Broderick Martin. I'm just using him as a as a foil for this example, right? But here's a guy. If he doesn't work out, you sat with him too long. What a mess! Oh no, what a mistake. But again, we'll see what happens with JMO this year. He's a full
probably still true dramatic for a guy drafted 97th overall or whatever it was. Let's not get carried away. No, Jameson Williams is a fascinating story, and like I'll say this about Jameson, like he was a mess when he came back last year, and I'm not even like. I'm not trying to be mean to the kid, and that's what I say kid with
people hate that story, but it's true.
An endearing way because he's a kid.
Yep.
And really to me, a 43-year-old man, but I have never seen in my time covering this team a wide receiver exhibit such poor hands consistently in practice. And even things such as soft toss where they're warming up, balls were hitting the ground. And I've just never seen it. These are pros. I think of Ben Wallace shooting free throws in practice, and he'd go out and he'd make 80% of free throws in practice, and then he'd go to the game and he'd make 48%. This was the opposite. This was shooting 48% in practice and then shooting 12% in games. It was so bad, and it didn't make any sense to me. And it was almost it felt like psychological. It felt like the yips.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Antoine Randall spent so much time with that kid. I think probably even more so behind the scenes where you never saw it.
Yep. Absolutely.
And in that locker room, the support of Jameson Williams it's kind of heartwarming. Every player in that locker room, even if they think he's kind of goofy and immature, there's a ton of genuine just love for him and guys ready to defend him because he gets a lot of criticism. And whether that criticism is merited or I know in many cases for people it goes over the top, they had his back. And I think that love and support from the coaching staff, from the teammates probably helped him get over whatever maybe hurdles and mentally he was dealing with. And he looks rejuvenated this year. And the one thing that stands out, and I was kind of digging into it at the end of the early personal offseason program, and I just tucked it away and said maybe I'll write this down the road. But his deep ball tracking is night and day. It's night and day.
Yes, we saw that every day this spring, Justin. Every day.
Yeah. So there's two types of deep balls, in my opinion. There is the one on your inside shoulder where you're tracking in the middle of the field, and that is his bread and butter. That's where his scores have come in the NFL. That's where a lot of his scores came in where you can just run under it, track it. And then there's the one where it's on your outside shoulder and you're running down the sideline. It's just a way more difficult skill. But you're a professional athlete, and that's your bread and butter. You should be good at it. And he just has not been. He just can't even track it, or he previously couldn't track it. There was a ball in one of the OTAs. He was being covered by Carlton Davis. The coverage was physical. I mean, probably Davis is getting a flag, hands and jostling all the way down the field. That ball comes over Jameson's shoulder at the last second, and he separates, he catches it, and he celebrates like a madman because he should, because this is a sign that he's come to this level. And so I started digging in, what Jameson wouldn't talk to me because
he's
Jameson is Jameson,
that's not what he does.
It's okay. Right, but yeah, he'll talk when he's required to talk. But my watch is you've got enough alerts today. I'm shutting off. But I started talking to some other people, what has he done? And I don't want to give away too much because I want to write it at some point. But they started talking to me about specific drills they were working every day to get him comfortable. But ultimately, every single person said, "Yeah, those helped." But what helped most was he wanted it, and he put in the work, and he put in the effort. And we need to make sure that he's recognized for what he's doing. And I stopped Ben Johnson walking off the field after, I think, the practice with Carlton Davis. Maybe it was the next day. And, those guys talk on designated days. This wasn't an interview. It was a casual conversation. I don't think I'm revealing anything because it was mostly my words. And I said, look, man, nothing stands out more than the way Jameson is tracking deep balls this year. And I said, if that carries into the season, holy shit for your offense. Like, my God, does that open up everything for if you have to respect that. Now the safety has to cheat. Now there's stuff opening underneath and in the seam, and just gives that offense so much more life. And like Ben's just, Ben, just a sly smile. And he's like, not much gets by you. Like just, he's like, I'm glad you see it too. But like, everybody knows, like, if that's there, my God, I mean, like, really, like, the Josh Reynolds, I don't love the fact that they didn't sign Josh Reynolds back. I get why they didn't, but like, I thought he was an important piece of the offense. But if the JMO deep ball is a reliable aspect and the route tree is a little bit more developed and he can give you 600 to 800 yards and 6 to 8 touchdowns as a floor, you're fine. You're fine.
And this is where I think the development, you talked about the players, how much they love him. I think this is a little bit of a piece of, it's a couple things, the veterans in the locker room, and then the connection of coaches as players, because everybody knows their role, and the players, they lined up behind him faster than you typically see players kind of buy into a guy, especially a guy that isn't producing and making all the good headlines, right? Any other team in the historically that would have kind of lived through what happened with JMO and that kind of experience early, the negativity, people would have been like, I don't want to get any on me. But a lot of guys, Amon-Ra, other guys stood up for him when it was probably early for somebody to do that. But I think that's part of the plan, part of the pattern, right?
You know who stands out for him more than most guys is and his locker's really close. Alex Anzalone.
Yeah.
Is like, he's like JMO's locker room dad, it feels like sometimes. And it's such a unique relationship, but like, different positions, different sides of the ball, different upbringings, different backgrounds, different spots in their career in terms of leadership standards. But like, you just tell Alex really loves Jameson and like wants him to succeed. He wants to be that like supportive big brother. And it's, I don't know, like things like that are cool to see in a locker room.
And that's what I think. I think part of it, and I don't think it's disingenuous what you're seeing from Anzalone or whatever, but I also believe part of that is the role of players as part of the development of a guy like JMO. I think that it was very clear that the players had to stand there and do the player part to make sure he was part of that brotherhood, didn't feel separated, felt supported, while the coaches held him accountable and didn't play him, didn't give him the reps, because he's a player. At the end of the day, he wants to be on the field. He doesn't want to be not on the field, and then only the few times he's there, the ball falls out of his hands. He doesn't want that. Right, he wants to get on there and he wants to play, and I think they put him in a position where he had all the right pillars to guide him to the growth that he needed. And I genuinely believe that was part of the plan around JMO that they had to get him where they needed him to get, because they all knew if you get the JMO you think you can get, you've got exactly what you talked about with the offense. You've got an absolute over-the-top threat that breaks down and creates all kinds of room for everything else to operate.
Yeah, even though Dave Phipps shit on the comp, I still like the Deshaun Jackson comp. I get that the strides are different, but that slender burner that can just do damage every time is great. But to just expand on your point a little bit, like, so much about what this organization is about, in terms of philosophical instead of culture, is about ownership. They feel ownership for their success, and their success is both individual and team. And so that's what we talk about with Jared Goff, right? Like, they immediately gave him the keys to the car. This is your team, but it's not just Jared Goff. It's why they did what seemed silly now and didn't really look as good as what they, I think, envisioned in the player run practice that was featured on Hard Knocks. Like, it was kind of a mess. There were some moments that were fun in that, but like, ultimately that's what they're trying to do, is make everyone feel it's the whole rowing together for the same purpose, right? Like, to feel like every action you do is part of the process that helps us win. And so that's wrapping their arms around JMO or carry on with the way Goff has been, with him, like that builds camaraderie and culture. And like, there's no player that feels negative toward their teammates in that locker room. And like, that's really positive. Although you ever watch those TikTok videos where they have the player from the college volleyball team order walk around like, which player would you not let date your daughter? And they all answer, and the joke, it's always the one that's Kirby Joseph. Every one of those, like, what player would you not let date your daughter? Which player's most likely to screw up his a recipe? Which player's most likely to have mismatching shoes? It's like Kirby Joseph's like the butt of all their jokes.
He likes that too, by the way. He lives to that.
He's like a delightful goofball.
Yeah, those guys that wind up being the butt of the jokes tend to draw that behavior no matter where they wind up, right? And it's part of
he's got Darius Slay energy.
Yeah,
like I talked about Terry and Arnold overlapping. Like Kirby Joseph's got Darius Slay's personality.
Yeah. What do you think, really quick, about CJGJ last year? I feel like he was an important part of the growth of the personality of the secondary.
Yeah.
Not and look, obviously not a long-term solution, and we see where things are now, but before he came, there was the dog that was missing, I guess, right? He showed up and he taught these guys how to bark. I mean, you saw it almost immediately. I was, and we go back with Jerry and all that, but watching him grow even in that space, right? I mean, I was really impressed watching when him and Aruwariye were going to go toe to toe, but then they were like friends, so they kind of didn't. And then CJGJ jumps in. He's like, I don't care. Like, and just started jawing at the Giants practice last year. And Jerry was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. Like, he's my friend, but I'm supposed to jaw. Like it was so funny to watch that play out. But he brought something and changed that personality of that secondary. And I think that lasting impression is probably the best thing we could have gotten for that group.
I loved the chance to cover CJ. Loved it. I mean, like, as a reporter, love players like that. Like, they're so volatile, but like, as long as you generally approach with respect, like, even when they're in a bad mood, like, you're going to be okay. And, when you caught him on a good day, he would have tremendous football insights. And if you caught him on a better day, he would just have crazy things to say. Like, zero filter on that guy. And I loved it. Like, I'm not out there to burn you. Like, I'm genuinely interested in how you perceive the world and how you perceive football. And like, I don't know, like, you don't get to laugh a lot at the job. And like, he would just say the craziest shit. You just laugh because it was ridiculous and made for some good stories, I hated the fact that he missed most of the season. You talk about just respecting a person, right? Like, that's a guy that had his financial security for the future on the line and did not care and came back to play when he had no reason to have to do that. Like, it speaks so much volume to his football character, if you will. And I understand that he's been feuding with Lions fans on Twitter, and that's just who he is. Like, we talk about manufacturing chips on the shoulder, right? Like, CJ Gardner has so many imaginary manufactured chips on the shoulder. And like, who cares if that's what drives him to be the player he is on Sundays? Great. I hope he has a long and successful career. And then I hope after that he makes 50 rap albums and they all go gold. Love him. Love him.
All right, let's take a little bit. Let's kind of get out of the retrospective mode. Let's go to prospective. Let's look a little forward here. Training camp's coming up, about to open. Justin will be there. We'll look for you.
I think it probably opened. What time did we start this interview?
For DetroitFootball.net, Detroit Football Network. I'll still plug it. Don't worry. You stay. I'll plug. Great subscription. I just got mine while we were talking to Justin, and I've already got 3 issues.
I think I've added no, I'm not even joking. Like, I think I've added 20 since we started this call. And I'm not saying like, I'm sure some of them will come from your readers. It's crazy just watching this thing tick up all day. It's humbling. I'm going to keep going back to the word.
You've earned it, my friend. You have earned it.
I don't care.
Because you do good work.
Yeah, no, I get it, Justin. All right. Let's talk about storylines going into training camp. What are we carrying now? Yeah, what are we carrying now? What's the things to watch as we start to roll into training camp here as things kick off?
You're digging into position battles that are different than position battles that you're used to in the past. Now you're not looking at guys fighting for starting jobs and which rookies are going to have impacts. Like now it's like, who's going to be making year 2 or year 3 jumps? Who's going to be filling the depth roles? And clearly, obviously, the kicker battle is a fun one to watch as much as we sometimes forget it. But like, look, I'm as excited as anybody.
Too, baby.
No, Scott Daly.
I'm Hogan Hatton. Baby.
I know. Like, I remember I pulled up his RAS and I'm like, what the hell is this? This is like, it's like a perfect RAS long time. I like Scott Daly on a personal level, so that's a bias that I'm admitting here. I have a long snapper bias. Sue me. I don't know if you guys remember this. I wrote a story on Scott Daly. I
do remember this.
He wouldn't quit his job as a financial advisor because he wasn't sure like he was going to stick, even after like they picked him over Muehlbach. I just thought it was so hilarious. And then last year I wrote about him, and then he got hurt, and I was like, "Hey man, like respectfully, like you get one story a year. Like I can't write 2. Like so, can you not get hurt?" Like, good Lord. And then I talked to Jake McQuaid, who was long snappers are the coolest.
They're great guys.
Yeah,
they're a different breed. They're definitely a different breed.
Right. Let me ask you, because I know one of the stories that we're all going to be looking at is Hendon Hooker. What is your hope for Hendon Hooker as we approach camp?
Oh, that he was better than we've seen so far. I mean, it was a big struggle for him, and I was surprised. Okay, let's go back to when he was drafted.
Okay,
big Hendon Hooker fan. Like I thought Brett Holmes absolutely nailed that pick. I'm like, man, you got a high ceiling backup that is old enough and experienced enough that like he fills the role that you need, but also he's not a real threat to Goff as much as people have tried to manufacture that storyline. And then I went back and I watched his Tennessee tape, and I was familiar with the criticisms that exist out there, and I was like, I love this tape. Like, yeah, there are things to get better, but man, like I just loved it. And whatever, it was going to be a redshirt year. Perfect. You got Teddy Bridgewater, also perfect. Teddy's awesome in the locker room. He was super important. We didn't even talk about that. Super important to Jameson, and still important to Jameson. Like he's still working out with Teddy. So you let Hooker rehab and develop, and this is the first time he's really been in a football situation in a while, and they I think we take for granted sometimes when they start breaking down your mechanics and your footwork and all that stuff. And I think it was Brunell that said there at the end that like no, it wasn't Brunell, it was Engstrand, passing game coordinator, said at Tennessee it was often like he was in cement in the pocket. He would just drop back and stand there and make his process through his reads and make his throw. And here we're asking him to do more with his feet. And like, look, if your lower body and your upper body are disconnected and not connected through the brain, through muscle memory, it's a process. Like you've got to retrain all of it to work together. And it's a work in progress. I mean, it's very clearly a work in progress. It is not the worst quarterback play I've seen in training camp, because I've seen David Fales and I've seen rookie Kellen Moore, which was the single worst quarterback play I've ever seen at the professional level.
Oh, man.
Brad Kaya.
But Hendon Hooker's
rumor has it Brad Kaya still has a ball in the air.
Oh. Didn't Bob Quinn say that was his most difficult cut? That 1 year?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Okay. Okay. Derailed.
Sorry.
No, look at Hendon had major consistency issues throughout the early stages of the OTA. He would make throws and be like, "Yep, there it is," and then he'd make 3 throws. It was like, "Nope." Like you're missing guys in stride. You're throwing the ball too hard on stupid swing passes, which should be the easiest one in your playbook. Just an immense amount of inconsistency. That said, I cannot wait to watch them in the preseason. It's the reason to watch the preseason.
Yeah.
They're going to do joint practices against the Giants, and no one else is going to play that you care about. like it's the Hendon Hooker show, and he's going to be throwing to receiver 4, 5, and Tom Kennedy. And I don't care. I can't wait to watch Hendon Hooker to see what he has to offer, to see what he's ironed out in this break, what he'll able to iron out in first couple weeks of training camp. I don't know. I hate the preseason. I don't care with the preseason, but I care this year because I can't wait to see Hendon Hooker.
I can't wait. I would love to see Hendon Hooker get us hooked back onto the Tom Kennedy needs to be signed. He needs to make the 53 wagon.
I'm not going to say a name, but there is a member of the Lions staff that has it's not, I'm not even saying like coaching staff, just like a Lions employee that just has unexplainable love for Tom Kennedy and may have once said the sentence that if Tom Kennedy was a starter for the New England Patriots, he would catch, I don't know what it was, 70 or 80 balls. And I was just like, I gotta go. I gotta walk away from you right now.
This is not a decision maker, you said, right?
It is not.
Okay.
And I love the guy, but I also love giving him shit over that opinion.
You'll have to tell me Wednesday morning.
Man.
I have a good idea who it is, though. I think I have a good idea who that is.
All right. Let's talk about Detroit Football Network, DetroitFootball.net, Justin Rogers. Great. It's not subscribe only. There are some free articles that are going to roll out. You're going to see some stuff. You can get a little taste.
Free. You got to see what you're going to get.
The first taste is always free.
Look, you learned from the porn industry. Congratulations, Justin.
Is that what I learned wrong?
Well, he's not talking about this. But
sounds like Jeff revealed something about himself.
Hey, we are going to do a little
Bus Wisdom over here.
I swear to God, OnlyFans is such a great business model, and I wish that it could work for people like you and I, but it just does not.
Isn't that what how is that different than what I'm doing? I mean, other than my...
No, I actually tried to get us on OnlyFans as an...
No,
I did absolutely try to get the podcast on there as well, but they wouldn't accept us. Some things are too dirty, even for OnlyFans. Anyway, DetroitFootball.net, Justin Rogers striking out on his own like a true capitalist, a true CEO, a true corporate media grunt. I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to see you in a tie, Justin.
I don't know the last time I wore a tie. I don't.
Really?
I used to wear one to every game, and at some point I was like, I don't think anybody really cares. I don't think anybody cares. So, at least
the Lions certainly don't. Judging from some of the people that we've seen credentialed, like you know,
there's that. I take it back. There's that one guy that emailed me that just wanted to break down every part of my physical appearance, and I was like, "Guy, did you like the article? Do you really care that I had some hairs out of place? Like, it was a long day. Like, what are you doing? Like, I'm not trying to work for the Fortune 500. I'm covering football. Calm down. Calm down. All of you, calm down."
Oh God, you gotta love him. You gotta love him, my man.
I love this. I love just poking my head and looking at these little comments. The last one coming through, like, look at this, Jeff.
Jeff Bang
You've
Bus
ruined me,
Risden
Justin.
might stick as a nickname. BBR.
You've ruined me, my friend.
Bang Bus Riz. Oh my
There
goodness.
are worse things to be. As long as Steve Miller isn't playing on the Bang Bus, I'm happy.
Oh no, that's coming up though. So hey, we're not doing the official training camp party this year, like with a full show or anything, but we are getting together, Justin. If you'd like to come out, I think we're still going to have Dan hang out, have some drinks, just in kind of informally hang out and just talk football and talk to people who like to read, listen, all that kind of
Who
stuff.
is paying for these drinks? Because that's a concern at this level.
I think I just didn't I?
No,
I will certainly get one round
brother.
for
I
you.
got you.
All right.
As you know, I'm a sports writer as well, so I don't.
I got you.
You know what I make.
I got you,
so.
Rogers. Don't worry about it. You know.
Good for one.
You heard the negative 20,000 line, right?
Yes.
You know I got you, Rogers.
Designed to make you feel bad.
I think I do it every year.
We
you show up, so you should be all right.
I just got to say, Justin, I'm so proud of what you're doing. Because I know a couple other people have done the same.
You can
and
say
it's
that 'cause
working
you're
for
older
them
than me,
as
right?
well. Yeah, I am, and I
Yes.
would never do it.
Yes.
But the other question I wanted to ask you real quick about it: how was your family taking this? What was that conversation like when you went to your wife, who I've never met her,
See,
but I know
they're
she's supportive
they're
for you.
gonna hear it, and so it's gonna be awkward. But I am married to my wife for many reasons, but one of them is she is super laid back and goes with the flow. Like the joke I had when I was in college, because we got married while we were still in college, 22 years this year,
Congrats.
is that I could go to her. I'm gonna make this a longer answer than it needs to be, and say, "Hey, I'm going to go to Vegas this weekend. I'll see you Thursday." And she'll be like, "Oh, okay." Like that's how it's always been. And my friends wanted to test this theory in college, like what was the limits. And so these are stupid things, but they make for funny stories in a friend group later. Do you know what a sugar glider is?
Yes, like a flying squirrel,
Yeah.
kind of.
They are pets. And I just decided that my friends and I decided that we were going to see if I could purchase a sugar glider, if that would go over. And so I started like leaving literature around the house, and then we went and saw them at the pet store.
This is a Christmas
And
story. Like
she was like very ready to leave the store with a sugar glider. And I was like, I don't really want a sugar glider. Like this was literally a test to see like what the limits were. And apparently there's no limits. So like, look, it's a crazy conversation to say, hey, I know we're doing really well and we have all these bills, but we're living within our means and everything. I'm going to do this. And what does that look like? Well, looks like I'm going to count on my audience paying my salary and I'm going to take it down to zero. And I don't know what that looks like. She's like, okay. Okay. And, the interesting thing, and
That's
maybe
awesome.
it's not that interesting. I don't know. I guess I don't follow everybody else's marriage, but like I will say one thing that we've always done, and it's really worked well for us, and it's helped us maintain a really good balance in life. Is we have separate finances, and so while we're on each other's bank accounts and credit cards and all that, like we manage our finances separately because we kind of do business differently, right? Like, and so her way drives me crazy, my way drives her crazy, and so it's like, all right, here's our budget. You take this half of the bills, I'll take this half of the bills, and whatever, reconvene whenever necessary. And she does very well. She's a school administrator, and that she has health insurance for us, so like that gives me some of the leeway. But like people would say, "Oh, your wife does really well. You've got the budget to do this." I'm like, no, like she's budgeted to pay half the bills. Like I'm still paying my half of the bills for the next forever. And so like I had to start this venture in my bank account, basically our slush fund. I have liquid about a year's worth of take home salary. Like I'm good with money. I'm conservative. I don't spend what I don't have. So I entered this venture with, whatever, $70,000. Like this is what I have to make this work. And if it doesn't work in a year, like then I have to go and do something different. That's okay.
TJs.
And so she's been incredibly supportive. And like I said, today was an encouraging start that exceeded reasonable expectations.
Ben Cavella with a chat here. He says Justin Sugar Glider Rogers has a nice ring to it.
I agree. let's get it. Like Ben, you want to go halvesy on a sugar glider? Like I'll take them like the first and third weeks of the month. They're super cool. I spent way too much time researching them for it. This is a cost to joke ratio pullback from an hour ago. Like invested way too much of my time to make this joke happen, but it has now been 25 years and we still joke about it. So
yeah,
it was worth it.
Those are the best ones. The ones you really invest in, because those will live on in infamy for ages.
And now I got a cat that looks like a sugar glider, but I don't know where she's at. She was just at my feet a minute ago.
All right. Well, Justin,
Yeah.
wish you the very, very best of luck, man. We talked for a little bit today. I know you've been talking all day. DetroitFootball.net, the Detroit Football Network. Justin, my favorite writer. You guys have heard me rant and rave about how good he is.
He's going to buy me all the beers next week.
Yeah, we're buying you the beers too. He just milks me. He just milks. Wouldn't even offer a free subscription, by the way. You know, he wouldn't even offer that. He just wants.
I don't want a free subscription. I'm paying for this bad boy.
No, I want him to offer. It's the offer that matters, not the subscription.
I finally offered one today to my mother. She's the only one. I told the people that stood up I told the groomsmen from my wedding. I'm like, listen, guys, they signed up without hesitation. You know, we didn't even. A couple of them signed up before I even launched because they were savvy and found the site and knew things. But ultimately, I don't want my friends having to my closest friends and family. I don't want them to pay. But sorry guys, today with my salary was $0. I need your help. That's okay.
Yeah. Well, Justin, love to have you on.
Thank you so much for your time tonight. We appreciate it. Hopefully you get more and more subscriptions out of this. Chris and I will continue to pimp you as much as we can. We will share this with all of our friends. And I can't wait to see you and congratulate you in person. I will see you Wednesday or Thursday, but I'm so proud of you, man. I'm proud. I'm proud specifically that it's you that's doing this amongst the Lions media, because I don't think many other people can make that work. And you know what I mean by that.
I'm going to close with this. This is what I'm most excited about. I use this line in the post. This path has already been blazed. I'm not a trailblazer by any means. There's plenty of people that have done this and done this well and done this successfully. But if you look at those people, I think you'd be really hard pressed to find anybody that did it fully with their power, their choice. Almost all of them lost their jobs in some way, shape, or form, downsizing, layoffs, buyouts, and they had to stay in the industry, and they've done really well, and it's been really smart. I wanted to be ahead of the curve. I think journalism is going to stay alive forever. I think the newspapers, local newspapers, will have a place. They might be different and smaller in a shape, but I compare it to how cable internet has changed, right? How many people will cut the cord and now are getting their single serving different, their Peacocks and their Apple TVs and their Netflix. That's what this is. And this is a chance to be part of and on the curve of the future. And nothing has shaken my resolve. I've been thrilled with every step of the way, with the people I've talked to, with the support I've had, and I'm just super, super confident and super blessed. Well,
this is the chance to stop the race to the bottom in journalism. That's where I think this is so important, Justin, because I think freeing you to have your own voice, and I know you've always had that, but now you get to make some other decisions that you didn't get to make along the way. And I think this is important. Guys like you, I've always been, I'm hypercritical of journalists, because so many of them are just in that formula. They might as well be AI today, because they're just spitting out the 300 words while you can take a dump, you can read it, and it's meaningless. But you put really, really good quality content together, and I wish more would do it. But you being on your own like this, and the freedom that this will provide, I think this is just going to be one hell of a journey, and I can't wait to see people like you that I think will actually save journalism from the AI. I think if you watch what corporate media has done for the last 15 years, it's only inviting it to be itself to be replaced by a machine. And the quality and the humanity that somebody like you can bring and put in the space is where the differentiator is. So best of luck anytime on the show. And even just to, if you need any help with any of the stuff along the way, happy to help and assist and do whatever, Justin. We love what you do, and you do high quality work. So we're happy to support you across the board.
There's 75% chance I'm crashing your house in Tampa when that comes up. So
I don't give a shit.
You've got it.
Okay. You're buying the beers that time, though. It's cheaper than a hotel.
Done.
You got to bring out the rum runners.
This year.
Yeah, we'll never get to
They're
the
all
beers.
gone.
Fireside chat with the rum runners. Justin can take my spot this year.
You're
That'd
going to be
great.
wrecked.
He'd love it.
You're going to be
Well,
While
wrecked.
your cat eats skinks off the porch.
Justin Rogers. See you later, man. Troy Football.
Justin, thank
Go
you.
subscribe. Thank you, man.
Thanks,
We'll
buddy.
see you soon. All right,
See you guys.
ciao. All right. Ooh, we did it. How about
I
that?
feel so good about that.
Yeah.
You know, this industry, and I say this as somebody who's worked in it for a very long time. What he said there at the end about being ahead of the curve on it, it's a conversation that I've had with my wife in the past, and I've told her, and we've agreed, when this Lions Wire thing is done, I'm not going anywhere else. Like, I'm going to do something different, just because it's such a grind and a rat race that you get tired of being the hamster on the wheel, man.
Mhm.
And for Justin to break free from that on his own, it's inspirational to me. It's it's hard to describe it, and I say that as somebody who writes for a living and like comes up with words. It's hard to describe how awesome that is, that somebody like him specifically, because it would not work for everybody, and it would not work for me. I just wouldn't. And the amount of like respect and empathy and pride that I have in Justin right now is through the freaking roof, man. I please make this work for him. Please. This is where we need to go. If you don't like the AI, the clickbait crap that some of us are forced to write from time to time, the misleading headlines, the trappy stuff, the 17th mock draft of the month that you have to write about, Justin's not going to be doing that kind of stuff. And if you support that, it will show people who employ people like me that can work, and maybe I won't have to do it either.
I think people
for that, I would be eternally grateful to Justin.
I think people have seen this year, in particular, especially in Lions Land. If you don't own it, you don't own it. It ain't yours. And we're 10 years in. We own it. We own it. Like that's the difference, right? Better or for worse, you own it, and it's yours.
God bless you, Justin. I'm pulling hard for you, buddy.
Yep, he'll do. He'll do just fine. I know.
He will. I have very little doubt that he will. Like he's gonna do good. He's gonna do good. It will work for him.
Yep.
That's awesome. Makes me happy.
All right. Quick shout out. Fuck you, CrowdStrike. Remember, don't forget about us on Patreon. Patreon.com/Detroit Lions Podcast. Patreon.com/Detroit Lions Podcast. $5 a month or more will get access to the Slack chat. Good time for you. Good time for us. It is training camp. Riz will be there all day. He'll be putting out videos all week after training camp that you'll be able to see. Check this stuff out. I'm telling you, you're going to love this week's content.
One quick shout out. I will be the huge show Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. So please tune in wherever you are on the Michigan Sports Network. It will be me and me alone, although I do have a couple of guests that you all know pretty well. So check that out. It'll be very, very Lions-centric. We do have a Tigers guy on standby in case they do anything.
Meow. All right. So, yeah, we got all that going on. Check Riz's stuff this week. He'll have reports from training camp all week. But the Slack chat is the place to hang out. Great group of people. Great, most intelligent Lions chat on the internet, and really good stuff. Tomorrow we'll have, on Tuesday, another one of those mental health episodes. We'll be dropping good stuff, man. This is a smart guy saying some really smart things and carrying Lions fans around from a place. I think I just think it's valuable, and it's far beyond football what's in there, and it's definitely worth tuning in and listening to. So we got that. Also, Bish Brown coming back soon with some content. Also,
yes, they are.
Daily
I was
DLP.
just texting with Russ like a minute ago.
Daily DLP with Ash coming back. It's all coming together, and the flood begins. The flood begins again. So get ready. It's a lot of fun. We've got the great team hitting this year, and we'll see what else we managed to put together this year to add the flavor of the DLP. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at DET Lions Podcast and at Jeff Risden. Don't forget, at DET Lions Podcast is a place where you're going to get the most up-to-date information, especially about the get-together, that informal get-together where we all hang. And it's the best place to be, pants free. Go to DetroitLionsPodcast.com, subscribe to the podcast, because whenever you do, Riz does what?
I get to come into your ears automatically.
Yeah. All right. It got creepy. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to see you next time on the Detroit Lions podcast. Remember, no pants, no toasters, no hot tubs, no problems, because we're Detroit Lions, and Reddit Connection training camp begins now.